Facebook doesn't necessarily have the best track record of keeping anything private, Sarah. So what do you make of this very distinct change in strategy?
Well, I think to your point that it's a little bit about increasing that trust with users around privacy. But in my opinion, a lot of it is actually about the fundamental problems that are facing Facebook today, which is the public scrutiny and government scrutiny over privacy, and also the problem with content moderation. If it's encrypted, Facebook can't even see what people are saying and therefore doesn't have to fix it. Of course, Zuckerberg framed all of this as something that users want. He said users really want more private communication. It's the fastest growing aspect of our business. We are doing this because of their demand. But it's worth noting how it will affect their perception problem.
Michael, can we trust Facebook to make Facebook more private?
Well, Zuckerberg talks about going from the digital town hall to the digital living room. And the challenge is, I'm not sure people do trust Facebook. He's saying this because he recognizes there's this trust challenge. But in reality, what they're doing is they're talking about protecting the privacy of people in a broader conversation, but not necessarily their privacy versus Facebook, because Facebook is ultimately in the advertising business.
Right, you're still going to be giving all your information to Facebook.
Right. Not only is it going to be in the platform, and the battleground is going to be around messaging. So if you look at Facebook controls between Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram, they control the majority of the messaging around the world. But that doesn't mean people who are worried about their privacy aren't going to go to other platforms like iMessage or some of the emerging platforms like Telegram and Signal. And let's not forget WeChat, which will dominate other parts. It doesn't have to stay in China. So some of the things he's doing are merely defensive, and users are going to be very skeptical about it.
So, Sarah, tell us a little bit more about what he said. He said services would be opt-in, that, if you want your messages to disappear, maybe they will be able to disappear. We don't know what this all means, but how do you think this is actually going to look or feel different for a user?
Well, think about the position that Facebook's in. They're being scrutinized by governments around the world who say that they don't give users enough choice. And Zuckerberg has always thought that, if we give people choice, they probably would pick an advertising-supported network. They probably would pick to post publicly. So a lot of this maybe won't be as big of an impact on Facebook as we think. That said, he was very deliberate about explaining that everyone's been using Instagram stories and WhatsApp status, these parts of the service that only last for 24 hours. And he wants to bring that kind of disappearing nature to more of Facebook's content. So it becomes less of a permanent record of your life and more of a rotating version of you. So things can disappear maybe in 3 months, maybe in 3 years. You can decide.
Michael, you've done a ton of research on digital advertising. How do you think changes like this, no matter how they are put into practice, will affect Facebook's business?
Facebook, a lot of what the platform allows is enables an advertiser to target very finely, to find specific groups of people and to find, in some ways, their interests. And so it's not likely to affect Facebook's advertising business. In fact, it could enhance them. The broader challenge is Facebook is going to merge from being a broadcast platform, which is where a lot of the problems were. A lot of the misinformation, the foreign data operations took place in that broadcast surrounding. And they're saying it's going to be more private. A lot of users are going to wonder to see what happens. Ironically, Facebook began as a private platform. It was something for university students to talk to each other. And in order to become a commercial enterprise, it had to open up even more. So we have to expect this is going to be engineered and designed in a way that it will only enhance Facebook's advertising business versus impair it.
Sarah, there was a new development today in terms of some of the government scrutiny. Facebook won a freeze on some of the disclosures in a Washington, D.C. privacy lawsuit. The D.C. Attorney General, Karl Racine, has been suing the company, claiming that it failed to protect consumer data. This is tied to Cambridge Analytica. What does this mean?
Well, Facebook has had a lot of big document leaks lately, either from governments or from news reports. This is maybe a small victory in a bigger picture here. The company is going to face regulators, lawmakers, attorneys general, and this is the year that it's going to happen. And so they need to be proactive about coming up with solutions before the government comes up with solutions for them. And so I think that's how that ties into the news you hear today, where Facebook is coming out and saying, we're going to give our users more choice. We've heard them. We're listening to them. But like Michael said, I think that that's still going to be ultimately in service to their advertising business.
Michael, what is your outlook on not just Facebook, but Instagram and WhatsApp, and whether users are going to keep coming back? Are they just so large, users really don't have a choice when it comes to other products? Or will these privacy issues ultimately be the downfall?
Already, engagement on Instagram far surpasses that on Facebook. And so there's a whole group of people who just keep coming back every day to Instagram. And to some extent, since they're younger, they're less focused on privacy, and the content that's shared on Instagram doesn't have the same level of depth as it does on Facebook. So they're going to be less vulnerable. Facebook itself, we should expect that a lot of people are going to continue to be skeptical about it and may share less. And then you look at WhatsApp and Messenger, and there's really no barrier to entry. Somebody can come in with a new service, your content isn't on it, it immediately scrapes your context, and so you can get up and running on another service. So that's where Facebook may be the most vulnerable. We may see a real wave of social splinter as a result of that.